Hello everybody, we are going to continue today with our science learning that we started yesterday. So we started a new area of learning in science, if you can remember, and it was about plants. So I've got two plants up on the screen and I just want you to spend a couple of minutes having a little think, what can you remember about these parts of these plants before we recap them in a second. So just think, which parts of these plants can you name? Okay. So pause the video now if you need a little bit more of a chat, but we're going to have a look at these ones that you can see on the screen, and hopefully you can remember some of them from yesterday's learning. So the first picture I've got is a stem. Okay, so this object here, this part of the plant is a stem. And if you can remember, the stem is the part of the plant that holds the flower up, and it also takes all the nutrients up to the plant from the roots. And you remember what the next one was called just underneath it? So this is the flower. Okay, so the part of the plant that looks really, really pretty. Okay, the really nice part of a plant. And the one underneath it, can you remember what that one was called? These are the roots. Okay, so we said that the roots live underneath the plant, they live in the soil, and they suck up all the nutrients and all the food out of the soil. This picture here at the bottom was the bud. Okay, so it's like the house for the flower, the little home for the flower before the flower comes out. Here we've got another item, and this is a leaf. This was a part of a flower, and this was a petal. This, if you can remember, was the seed, which is what the plant grows out of, what we pop in the soil before it grows. And you remember what this one was called. So this was the bulb. Okay, so a bulb is, instead of a seed, and some plants, they have a bulb, which is bigger, a bit like a bigger seed, okay, which is where the plant starts from before it grows. And then we started looking at some trees, because we said that trees were types of plants. And we've got 4 pictures down here. And the first picture, if you can remember, was blossom. So it's a type of flower that's on a plant before it turns into a fruit, such as cherry blossom or apple blossom. This main part of our tree is a trunk. This other part of a tree is a branch. And this down at the bottom, we also said that fruits often grow on trees as well. And I put my lovely pineapple as an example of a fruit, okay, because this is a plant, okay, it's not a pineapple tree, it's a pineapple plant. We did say that fruit also grows on trees as well, such as apples and such as cherry that we talked about a second ago. So today we are going to follow on from our learning, which is what you did yesterday, and here are my amazing pictures, as I'm sure you were very impressed with them at home. Okay, so hopefully you had a go at labelling the parts of a plant, and you might have done my challenge and done 2 separate plants here. So I did a palm tree and a plant with a flower on, so we could label all the different features. But we're going to use that today to think about how plants have changed over time. So we've looked a little bit at seasons and learned about the different seasons, so spring, summer, autumn and winter. And we've thought about how the environment changes during those times. And now we need to think about how the plants change during these seasons as well. And I know we have covered this a bit, and we said when we looked outside, we could see during autumn that the leaves were changing colour. So those seasonal changes, I want us to have a little think about how that impacts on plants today. And I've got a little video that I want us to just have a little watch, which I'm going to share with you now. And this goes through the seasons, and it also shows what happens to the different plants and humans as well, but we're just mainly focusing on the plants today. Okay, so I've made this big, so hopefully you can see it. I'm going to turn the volume off so you can't hear the music, but I want you to just think about the different changes that you can see in this video. Okay, so here at the start of the video, we've got the first season, which is spring, when the climate is starting to get a little bit warmer and young animals are starting to come out and get some food. Okay, so the earth is starting to warm up and the plants are starting to grow. And this is around Easter time, so you can see the children there doing their Easter hunt. So you might start seeing more flowers around, bluebells. And here, look, we've got the buds that are growing on the branches as well, and then the buds turn into the leaves on the plants. We've got the young animals, the young birds there. Have a little look here at how the plants are changing. So they're flowering and then they're changing into their seeds. So dandelion plants, they're starting to change. And this is where the temperature is starting to increase, and we're moving now into summer. So it's getting a bit warmer. People are outside more, they're playing sports. The grass is green. There's lots of life around. Okay, and the plants are starting to change so that they can be harvested. So they're starting to change colour. The fruits are growing on the plants as well, so that people can pick them and start to eat them. And then after summer, we've got autumn, which is where you can see the autumnal changes here in this video. And we've got that the fruits are now ready to be picked, and obviously that the trees are starting to change colour to those reds and those browns and those golds. It's also starting to get a bit colder, it might be windier, and we're seeing a lot of weather changes now, which does have an impact on the plants because unfortunately they do start to die and the leaves are starting to fall off. This is a sign that we're going into winter. We need to wrap up warm and put our scarves and our hats and our gloves on, which is the season that we are in now. And if you look outside, you should hopefully see that there's not many things growing at the moment. So there's not many leaves on the trees. And we did have snow last week, didn't we? And it was very, very cold. So all these different seasonal changes we can see around us, and they're happening right now to all the plants. Okay, so look here on the hedges, there isn't anything growing. There's no green leaves at all. It is very, very cold. Some very brave animals out there still foraging around for food, which is lovely to see. But then obviously at the end of winter, we come back into spring again, which is when the earth starts to warm up and things start to grow again. Okay, so those are some seasonal changes that we can expect throughout the year, and some changes that will happen to the plants around us. So now thinking about that then, put some images that hopefully you can see on the screen now. And I just want you to have a think. So what changes happen to the plants during the seasons? So what can you remember from the video? So what changes happened? What happens at the start of the year in spring? And then what happens when it starts to warm up to the plants? And what happens when it starts to get colder as well? What changes happen to the plants then? Okay, freeze the video now if you need a little more thinking time and a little more discussion. But I've started to group my pictures, okay? And I've started to group them based on the different seasons and the different seasonal changes that I can see. So for example, here I can see that this is spring. So in spring, I can see lots of seasonal changes. So I can see that buds are starting to grow on branches or on stems of plants. I can also see that the plants are starting to grow. So the flowers are starting to come out and the leaves are starting to grow on the branches of trees. Here in summer, there are other seasonal changes that are happening and changes that are taking place to the plants. So now you'll be able to see that the fields are full of green grass and everything is very green and very fresh and very colourful. So all the flowers will be out. Okay, they're also starting to think about changing, moving into their seeds. We've got the dandelion here, and the fruits are starting to ripen on the trees, ready to be picked on these plants. And then in autumn, oh, Mystery can't spell autumn there. So in autumn, the fruit is ready, okay? It's ripe enough, it's ready, it's grown, and it's ready to be picked. So we harvest all the fruits, okay? This is when harvest time happens. And also looking at other plants, looking at the colours of their leaves, this is where you'll see that the leaves are starting to change colour. And they're starting to change these oranges and these browns as well. And then my last season in winter, which is unfortunately the season we're in now, and it is a bit cold and wet and miserable, but also not many things grow on plants at this time of year because it's so cold. Basically, the plants start to die off. So most of them don't have leaves on them. None of them have flowers on them. Okay, so the seasons do have an impact on the changes that we see in the plants. So now I want us to have a little think about what is happening at different times in the year. And we're going to use these images to have a think and describe what seasonal changes we can see that have happened to these plants. So I'm going to start by saying first. So first. So first, in spring, we know that plants get buds on them. Okay, so let me highlight that picture for you here just so you can see it at home. So this here is a bud. Okay, so the bud. Remember, this is that little house where the flower starts to grow on. So first, the plants grow buds. Okay, then the flowers begin to grow. These are the changes that start to happen at the start of the year. Okay, so first, the plants grow buds. Oh, apologies, I'm trying to move that so you can see it. So first, the plants grow buds, and then the flowers begin to grow. So that's the first seasonal change that I could be writing at the start of the year. After that, I want us to have a think what happens in summer. So have a little think, what happens in summer? What grows on the plants? What sort of changes might you see on the plants? So I'm going to start now by saying next. So next, the flowers fully grow, and should we say the plants are colourful and very green? Plants are green and colourful, because these are some of the changes that we'll see, won't we? I also want to mention about the fruit, because we said, if you can remember, and here's fruit on my word map, and it's on my picture here, the fruit was growing, ready to be harvested, wasn't it? Okay, so the fruit is growing well and changing colour. Because did you know that tomatoes, when they grow first on their plant, they are green, but then eventually, once the sun has hit them, they're changing colour from green to red. Okay, so these changes are happening as well. Following on from this, we could say that then the fruit gets picked. Okay, so then the fruit is ready to be picked. Could also say about the leaves, because I know a lot of you were really interested to talk about how the leaves were changing colour. So also the leaves change colour, and I've got the word orange down here on the word map, which I think I'll use. Turn orange and red. We've also got what happens in our last season, which is down here, but I'm not going to write anything there, and I want you to have a little go at doing this at home now. So this is your task for today. You don't necessarily need a sheet. You can pause this video, okay, here, so you can see all these different changes in the plants. But I have put this on the website if you need it, so you can type onto it, or if you would like to print it off, but this can be paused on the screen now. What I want you to do is I want you to have a little think and write me some sentences to describe the different changes that you can see in the plants. Okay, so first, what do we see? Next, what do we see? Then what do we see? And last, what do we see? You might want to use the words spring, summer, autumn and winter to tell me which season things are happening in, but you don't have to. The focus of today is you telling me what changes you see in these plants. So we know that by the end of this session that the plants don't stay the same all year round, that they have different seasonal changes. As normal, please don't forget to send me your work across. I want to see all your fabulous work that you're doing today, and have a look outside your window and see if you can see and work out which season we're in, and maybe you could write me some sentences about what sort of changes you can see in your garden as well, because I can imagine that there isn't much growing, so that's a bit of a hint. Don't forget to send it me all across, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.